friends, we are discussing Jhumpa Lahiri's most popular short story collection named Interpreter of Maladies. It's a collection of 9 short stories. The book was published in 1999 and won the Pulitzer Prize for fiction in 2000. Now, all of the 9 stories explore the human experiences and the ways that culture, identity, and relationships impact our lives in poignant and thought-provoking ways. Who are the protagonists here? Immigrants and their offsprings, particularly those from India, who reside in the United States, are foremost among these. But a few of the locations are there also in India as well as in UK. The characters often play a common role in bridging the gap between the culture and helping others to understand one another. Here, we will analyze the story collection and find out the merits of diaspora, feminism, and multiculturalism. Hello once again, I am Ardhendu De and you are watching AD's English Literature. Now, look at this diagram. Here is the list of Lahiri's short stories published in the Interpreters of Maladies collection. Now, all of the stories, the 9 stories that you will find, the temporary matters, the next is when Mr. Pirzada came to dine, the Interpreter of Maladies, the title story, a real Darwan, sexy, the treatment of Bibi Haldar, this blazed house, the third and final continent, Mrs. Sense. Now, all of these 9 stories are beautiful in its enactment of the Indianness, the beauty of India, the Indianness, the spiritualism, as well as in search of India. Here is also the treatment of multiculturalisms and other multifaceted things that we will explore in these stories. But first of all, the summaries of these stories. A temporary matter. The story of a temporary matter is the study of emptiness. Of course, the emptiness is the very core of the family constitutions. What I mean that the family is asunder. The story centers on a young couple named Sukumar and Shobha. They are attempting to patch up their relationship following the death of their infant son. That's very pathetic. Now, they are informed that a temporary power outage or a kind of a power shortage should be there in their neighborhood, and it will continue for each day, each night for 5 days. And they have decided to use this darkness, the opportunity to eliminate the darkness inside of their relationships. The events that culminates into the son's death, the stories of their pathos, they all their secrets, all their grievances were exposed while they converse each other. After the purgation, the couple face their grief and their marital problems boldly, I think. When Mr. Pirzada came to dine is another beautiful story. In this story, when Mr. Pirzada came to dine, you will find a young Indian American girl named Lilia develops a friendship with Mr. Pirzada, a Bangladeshi visitor who is staying with her family while he waits to hear news about his family's whereabouts during the Bangladesh Liberation War in 70s. The cultural contrasts between Lilia and Mr. Pirzada fascinate her, and their friendship helps Lilia better understand her own roots and sense of self, and it is the sole motivation that we will find in most of the stories of Jhumpa Lahiri. Now the title story, Interpreter of Maladies. The title narrative of Interpreter of Maladies, centers on Mr. Kapasi, an Indian who is married and who works as an interpreter at a hospital in India. He meets a married Indian American woman named Mrs. Das and her family who is visiting the country. As a result of Mrs. Das telling Mr. Kapasi about her unhappy marriage and desire for a child, the two, Mrs. Das and Kapasi, start having a near love story. As they spend more time together, Mr. Kapasi starts to recognize the cultural norms and expectations that have shaped their lives. He also has to face his own thoughts on loyalty and love. A real Darman. The story follows an elderly Indian woman named Burima who works as a Darman, a doorkeeper, in a dilapidated apartment building in Boston. Burima is fiercely protective of the building and its residents. But as she grows older and begins to lose her memory, her grasp on her duties and the world around her starts to slip. So here is a kind of a mixture of nostalgia and a kind of sense of duty. The another story, Sexy. The story follows a young Indian American woman named Meera who is struggling with her cultural identity and feeling like an outsider in both the Indian and American societies as well as communities. She becomes involved with an older man named Elliot, who is also struggling with her own cultural identity as a Jewish man. As their relationship deepens, Meera must confront her feelings about her own heritage and the expectations placed on her as a woman. So these cultural identities and the tug of war between those identities are the very pivotal point of this story. The treatment of Bibi Hallar. The story follows a woman named Bibi Hallar who lives in a poor village in India and is believed to be possessed by a goddess. Now it is an Indian setting. Bibi Hallar's mother takes her to a hospital for treatment. But the doctors are unable to find a physical cause for her strange behavior or sighting or a strange sighting or that kind of thing. As Bibi Hallar's conditions become more intense, the people in the village must confront their own beliefs about religion and the supernatural. So the very concept of Indianness and the beliefs of supernatural or the world beyond is the very spiritual identity of India, and that identity is being identified here in this particular story. This blazed house. The story follows a newly married Indian American couple named Twinkle and Sanjeev who are settling into their new homes in the suburb. As they decorate the new house they are in and unpack, they discover a collection of religious artifacts and decorations hidden throughout the house, left behind by the previous owners. The couple's differing reactions to the items and the cultural and religious differences they represent cause a kind of a tension in their relationships, and it is quite a new kind of treatment of finding out the religious concept or the religion as a concept behind this beautiful story. The third and the final continent that which we will find in Jhumpa Lahiri's story. The story is here a kind of a Indian man named Mala who emigrates to the United States in the 1960s, and he is here the experiences shared, and from then time he is trying hard to adjust with this new country. From Kolkata to Boston, the long journey from the graduation from MIT, the story then continues, and he navigates the challenges of living in a foreign country. So here is the story of homesickness, cultural differences, and the agony, the pain of diasporic feeling. So as he settles into his new life in the United States, Mala meets and falls in love with a woman named Elizabeth. The two ultimately marries each other and have a child together. And Mala's love for his new family helps him to fully embrace his new home. So here the journey continues. The next story is Mrs. Sen. It is a beautiful story of diasporic feelings as well as the story of immigration and how they pass through all these kind of experiences. Mrs. Sen is babysitting, and here Elliot the boy. Here comes a kind of a family relationship, a kind of motherly feelings attaches these two characters. They are obviously finding it out as a mixture of two cultures, two countries, and two identities, and how the little boy is getting sympathetic to Mrs. Sen, and how Mrs. Sen is taking Elliot into her heart's bosom in motherly feelings. This kind of attachment can be a remedial process from diasporic pain that these characters, particularly Mrs. Sen and Mr. Sen, are passing through. Interpreter of Maladies is diasporic. Jhumpa Lahiri sensitively highlights the terrible conundrum and conflicted emotions that a third world immigrant encounters in the West. The paradox is that staying is excruciatingly painful, but living is difficult. The migrant exists in both worlds, none of them as their own. But before we proceed further, it is better to study what is diaspora. A diaspora is a large-scale migration of people from their country of origin to another country, either voluntarily or as a result of economic or political pressure. The Indian diaspora includes Indians who have settled throughout the world, such as in England, America, Africa, or in the Caribbean. The Caribbean diaspora is also relevant to England, Canada, and France. Many members of the Indian diaspora, have maintained strong ties to their heritage and culture, in addition to the making of significant contributions to the new development into their newly adapted nations in a variety of fields, such as in politics, in business, in science, or in arts. So diaspora is a good thing of human civilization into a newly adopted civilization and its evolution, but it has a tales of pain. The experiences of diaspora, is reflected in Jhumpa Lahiri's interpreter of Maladies. Now, if we look at the stories, we will find many of the character lists. These character lists, if we study them, we will find a temporary matter, Sukumar and Shobha. When Mr. Pirzada came to dine, is Lilia obviously, and Mr. Pirzada. In Interpreter of Maladies, you will find Mr. Kapasi, and there is Mrs. Das and Mr. Das. A real Darwan, Burima is there. In Sexy, Mira is there. Or in the treatment of Bibi Haldar, there is Miss Bibi Haldar. And in the story of this blessed house, we will find Twinkle and Sanjeev. In the third and final continent, we will find Mala. Now, except for the treatment of Bibi Haldar, the location and character are not set in the foreign location, it is in India. But rest of the characters, all of these characters, in fact, are from the foreign nation. So they represent a kind of a diasporic section of the India. The stories in Interpreter of Maladies explore the complexities of interpersonal relationships as well as the experiences of characters torn between their native cultures and the dominant cultures of their adopted countries. So where they are shifted and where from they are shifted, these are the two locations they are torn between these passions. Now, India remains a part of Jhumpa Lahiri's fictional landscape despite the fact that she has never lived anywhere other than the United States. Since the majority of the characters are of Indian descent, India recurs frequently as a setting, as a characters, sometimes more metaphorically in the characters' metaphors, in the characters' memories. Lahiri's interpretation of the Maladies remain the story's connection to India, The story's main characters all experiences a kind of a sense of alienation. The journey is more about reflection, purging and purification. In reality, the Das family, for example, in the title story, is broken up and each member is living a life driven by their own objectives. However, the true chemistry of love is not like that. In spite of these, the wife prefers to bandage her wound in order to strengthen her relationship with her family. Her trip to India, Mrs. Das' trip to India, where she meets Kapasi and tells him about her tormented heart, and is a kind of itself a journey to happiness. A passage to India, if we have read, it's a kind of a passage to the heart of India. Knowing the India and realizing it itself a solace experience. Is Mrs. Das is doing such. So both India, both for Kapasi and Mrs. Das, this India is metaphoric representations of comfort and peace. India is now a metaphor for the presentations of peace, and Kapasi is an interpreter of suffering whom Mrs. Das and Mr. Das family has made them. Mrs. Das confides to Mr. Kapasi, the interpreter, the loneliness and the unhappy marriage. So Mr. Kapasi comes to understand the complexities of Mrs. Das' life and the ways in which cultural differences can create misunderstandings and miscommunications. So these all things happens in the title story Interpreter of Maladies. Now, in other stories in the collection explore similar themes of cultural conflict and the search for identity, such as A Temporary Matter, in which a couple faces difficulties in their relationship after the death of their child, and the third and final continent in which a man reflects of his journey from India to England and finally to the United States. So in all these stories we will find a kind of India looming large behind. Many of these stories in the collection deal with the difficulties and complexities of navigating life in a new culture, as well as the ways in which diasporic experiences affect the characters' relationship with their families as well as with their neighbors. Even the cultural identities, the sense of belongings, all those things are making their lives sometimes heavy, even unbearable. The idea of alienation, and the sense of displacement that often comes with being part of a diaspora is one of the central themes here in all of the stories in Interpreter of Maladies. The stories' characters and their struggles to find their own place in these new surroundings, and how they are frequently feel disconnected from their cultural roots in this new land, and how they must deal with the challenges or with the new changes of maintaining connections with their own family and communities in India, as well as the difficulties of preserving their cultural heritage and the traditions in this kind of foreign land. Is the very story, is the very struggle. So, in understanding overall of the Interpreter of Maladies, a kind of a provocative and emotionally charged examinations of the diasporic complexities and the human experiences of kind of a belongings, displacement can be done here. Now the stories and its patterns are always simple, but the presentations of the stories and the style is unique in Jhumpa Lahiri. In Jhumpa Lahiri's short story collection, Interpreter of Maladies, India is often used as a metaphor for the complexities and struggles of identity, culture, relationship. Many of the stories you will find in this collection explore the experiences of the characters who are oscillating and vacillating between the two cultures. One is the past India and another the present predicament they face in the community sections into this new land. These are either because they have emigrated from India to the United States, or because they are the children of immigrants and are trying to find their place in both these worlds. I notably tell you another repeating answer from a temporary matter. Here, the relationship of a young Indian couple, Shobha and Sukumar, who are coping with the recent loss of their infant son, is one example of India being used as a metaphor in the collection. The story employs power outage in their neighborhood, which occurs every evening for a week, to represent a kind of a transient nature of their relationship and the ways in which they are attempting to reconnect after their loss. So is there the darkness eliminates the darkness inside, and that's philosophical insight or search for soul is the Indian concept. In Interpreter of Maladies, the title story, how Mrs. Das befriends his tour guide Mr. Kapasi in the family tour, and how Mrs. Das confides to Mr. Kapasi about her troubled marriage and feelings, and how the India, the location, becomes a pivotal point of purgation of Mrs. Das, the agony inside her, and ultimately being soothed and being elevated into a new kind of personage. Now, India provides her the opportunity of interpreting her emotions and experiences. So simply the title story explores a kind of a complexities or a cross-cultural communication and the ways in which people from different cultures can help each other understanding and navigating life's challenges through their conversations, interactions, and it is the soil of India which makes it possible. Now, according to Indian family tradition, marriage is a symbol of the unity, and unity that is continued not only in this life but even continued after life. So it is an expression of love and respect. So Mrs. Das is aware of this, and she believes in the concept of family unity. Her reaction to the previous secret demonstrates that she understands this way of thinking. The secret that Mrs. Das had a love affair with another guy of Mr. Das, another friend of Mr. Das, and she is having his first baby by that man, and it has been a kind of a secret she maintained. But America does not provide a kind of a solace to her pain, so he comes to this India. This India demonstrates the differences between the American and Indian perspective of things, and this is why India is perplexed and defeated by her dilemma. India as a living soul shifts her perspective towards comprehension. As a result, India has become a metaphor for her. It becomes a metaphor for ancestral root and the paths to peace. Mrs. Das' story reminds us that India is a single unity, and it has a unity. It has a single entity that unites on both emotional and intellectual levels. Thus, both Indian Kapasi are mythical representations of comfort and peace for the Das family. Now coming to the another story, Mr. Pirzada come to dine. Here, Lilia better understands her own roots and sense of self. It is also an introspection of roots that is anchored in India. In a real Darwan, Burima, who works as a Darwan, a doorkeeper, in that old building that I have told you already, and her sense of own soil, India, her sense of the past has made him a kind of a obsessive possessor of that old building. It reminds her of the past. And which is that past? It is of course India. In the sexy. Now we can have Mira. She is struggling with her cultural identity. Now the Eliot becomes her old friend. Now Eliot also have a Jewish identity. So both this Mira and Eliot is having the crisis of identity or tug of war happening in their minds about their roots, and they are in search of roots. Where are their roots? Their old ancestral home, and it is India for Mira. In the treatment of Bibi Haldar, what is the disease of Bibi Haldar? Mysterious disease, no physical ailment. It is all mystic, spiritual and mysterious. And this is India. We meet Twinkle and Sanjeev in this blessed house. And here is the interesting story of finding out the religious emblem hidden, which is a kind of parallel of identifying oneself with the conflicts that are happening throughout the world. So here, conflicts of hearts. That conflicts of heart is only ensuing because he has the root of India and where he has the deep religious knowledge. In Mala's journey from Calcutta to Boston, in another story, we will find homesickness and cultural differences. Unless Mala is married to Elizabeth, he cannot have fully embraced the identity crises that are embroiling in his heart. So from nowhere, he gradually shifts himself into the world of family. Mrs. Sen's. This story is about a young boy, Elliot, who becomes friends with Mrs. Sen, his family's new babysitter. Elliot is fascinated by Mrs. Sen's life in India as Mrs. Sen relates that, and even he is much fascinated by the cookings of that Mrs. Sen. And the stories that Mrs. Sen relates about the India, her past, also fascinates her. So this is the story where too the Indian concept or the Indianness is being reviewed through the boy's perspectives. The Interpreter of Maladies by Jhumpa Lahiri can have a study of multiculturalism, you know. America's ethnic identity is defined by its multicultural and cultural groups. In the title story, the Das family represents the migratory Indians who settled in America. The phony materialistic society of America stands in stark contrast to the Indian aspects of hearty bonds. It is worth noting here that despite having a husband and wife, in the title story Interpreter of Maladies, Mrs. Das rarely has the opportunity to share her sad, somber life and the frustration that lies beneath. It is Mr. Das who keeps him busy despite his lack of understanding of his wife. The Das family travels such a long distance to reveal their quiet agony. So Das family, living elsewhere in the distant migrated land, may face the same fate. It is unnecessary to say that categorization is difficult. The Das family performs their responsibilities mechanically. Mr. and Mrs. Das divide the responsibilities of child upbringing in minute details. Mrs. Das' careless attitude towards her sons and daughters serves as a constant reminder of this. The dress changes and all those things. But as soon as they comes into the Indian soil and meets Kapasi, Mrs. Das starts to reveal the agony of her heart. Why so? Because the cultural differences made something impossible that in America made it possible living in India. So all those things typically lead us into understanding the cultural differences. In other stories we will also find out the same result, where the different cultures, different attitudes, different outlooks of contrasting attitudes in Pidjata's stories. Lelia and Mr. Pidjata is having that fascinating understanding of two different cultures. A real Darwin defines culture and nostalgia. In Sexy, Mira and Elliot get to know each other on a cultural ethics. the treatment of baby Haldar, where we can find out the Indian culture and the spiritual ethos or the spiritual emblem of India in wellness as well as in sickness. In the blessed house, Twinkle and Sanjeev gets to know cultural differences. In the third and final continent, we can also find out the same story where Mala meets Elizabeth, and ultimately the pains of living outside of the roots of India become soothed as there comes the family bondage. And that pain of migration, I must say, is being healed. Maladies can be considered feminist. It portrays the experiences and perspectives of women in a nuanced and empathetic way. For example, a temporary matter and Mrs. Sen's both feature fully developed female characters who are struggling with challenges in their personal lives. The stories, she explores the ways in which social and cultural expectations can shape and constrains women's experiences and choices. All of the characters, all of the characters in Mrs. Das or in Leila's case or in Bibi Darwan, everywhere from the women's perspectives the stories are told. The young girl Lilia, particularly, who is torn between her love for her father and her desire to forge her own path in life, is the very struggle in which a feminized heart is struggling with, that has been shown. The story suggests that women, like men, are capable of ambition and independence and should not be limited by traditional gender roles. Even the violent protest of Mrs. Das against Mr. Das is her attitude of her life when she accepts an outsider friend to be the father of her own child. The story can be read in feminist study. It provides a close look in Mrs. Das' predicament. We discovered Mrs. Das a kind of a bird caged within the bonds of family. She's married, had a love with her initially being romantic, but as the romance fades, she succumbs to boredom and ennui. She lives a life that few wish for. Classifying authors and their works into genres, into categories, is a difficult and contentious task. But some categorization is required in fiction if we are to understand books in their context. In that sense, Jhumpa Lahiri's The Interpreter of Maladies can easily be told as a modern short story collections with multiple interpretations. It has feminist outlook, it has diasporic outlook, it has a simple enactment of human situation, and the stories are evergreen. I say these are not only a good study for students, but as well as enthusiastic reader can accept this story as a beautiful gateway into the heart of people who are torn between two cultures. Thank you. Like, share, and obviously subscribe to my channel. Bye bye. See you in the next post.